Hey everyone, this is a gameplay video for a modern preliminary. I just played on MTGO. I am using a Domain Zoo deck list. The deck list is one that's run by um, Dak Faden07. So actually, I'll just pull up the list real quick. I won't go super in depth with everything, but just to give you an overview of what it looks like here. Okay, so as you can see, it's a domain zoo deck list. This is kind of a tempo, very aggressive shell. So we've got a bunch of one drops. We've got some interaction with WD, Leyline Binding, Remand, Tribal Flames, Bolt, and then we've got some big two drops with Brawler, Kabu, Scion. And we're trying to get the 5 spells. And if I look at the sideboard over here, it's just kind of typical stuff for tricky matchups. We've got some Graveyard Hate. We've got some more interaction. We've got some Artifact Hate. We've got Teferi for Cascade matchups and control matchups. We've got Hidetsugu Consumes All. That's primarily for Hammer Time and sometimes Death Shadow. We do have Gigantha. It's nice sometimes to be able to cast Gigantha in like grindy games. It doesn't happen that often, but does happen often enough. And then we've got a second Dromoka's Command, and I think about what else? Hearse here. Yeah, Hearse. So 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Unlicensed Hearse. Okay, so if we go back to this preliminary, let me scroll down here. As you can see, it ended up being 3-1. I won my first 3 games, then lost in the last round. Okay, let's start with game 1, round 1. Let's see if I get to load. Okay. I do win the die roll, so, that's the secret to winning in Magic is win the die roll. Okay, reveal Gigantha. Okay, looking at this hand. Actually, let me let me go back because I want to show that hand and why I'm looking that. Okay, so let's try this again. Sorry about that. Okay, reveal Gigantha, win the die roll. Okay, so looking at this hand, I do have spells and lands, but the problem with the domain mana base is that I really need to have 4 lands on turn 2, 4 colors on turn 2, or else the deck won't really function. So with this, I do have Triomes in the deck, so I could go Wooded Foothills into Xander's Lounge, and then I get a Plains on turn 2, and that would give me 4 colors. But the problem with those 4 colors, I can't cast my Neshoba Brawler, so I can't cast a threat turn 2 unless I draw another land. And then I have 3 Tribal Flames, which is like kind of a little clunky. So I do mulligan this hand because, again, I can't get the 4 colors I need. If this was a basic forest, then I would keep the hand. Or another fetch land, obviously. Okay, this 6 is also awkward. As you can see, I've got a Forest, Island, Swamp, Forest. So only 3 colors there. I also don't have any threats. So this is not a hand I can keep. I can't keep this awkward hand with no threats. It's too weird. So I go to 5. My 5 has a 1 land. With this deck, you really can't keep 1-landers. Obviously, I do have Ragavan. I can try to risk it. But going into blind matchup, I don't want to keep a 1-lander. And because if I don't draw another land, then I'm screwed. So I just go to 4. Okay, so this is a keepable 4, if there's such a thing. This is actually, you'll see where I bottom here. So this is actually probably the best 4 you could have. In that I have got a turn 1 threat in Ragavan, who's probably our best 1-drop. I've got a turn 2 threat in Kabu, who's our best 2-drop. And both of them allow me to, Ragavan obviously allows me to swipe cards off my opponent's deck, gives me mana, and then Kabu allows me to loot away lands. So this is actually as good of a 4 as you can get. So I do keep this, and then we'll get started. So I'm going to play. I just go Steam Vents into Ragavan turn 1 with the idea that I'll go Temple Garden turn 2, all 4 colors, and I can play my Kabu. Okay, he goes Jetmir's Garden. So at this point, honestly, I don't know a lot of decks that play this Triome, but I do see it's a mountain, so I'm thinking he's probably on creativity. He's just got like random Triomes in. So I just go and attack. So let's see, I reveal a Fable Mirror Breaker, which again just makes me think that he's on creativity. I could cast this Fable, but with what I have in hand and the fact that he's on creativity, I decide that it's better to just play my 2 threats, put a lot of pressure on the board early, knowing that he probably can't combo off until turn 4. So I'm going to just try to kill him before that. That's why I don't cast the Fable, and instead I just play my threats. So I play my Kavu and the Coddle. So this is a lot of pressure on the board on turn 2. We'll see. So he plays Windswept Heath into Overgrown Tomb. So it's this at this point, and he plays a Wrenn 6. So Wrenn 6 tells me that yeah, he could still be on creativity, but the fact that he has Overgrown Tomb is a little weird. That it's not a mountain. So that's where I'm like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what this guy's on. I don't really care. I usually ignore Wrenn in matchups like this. I don't care. So I just attack to face and I loot away the land because I would rather get some spells. Okay, so I do get a Bolt, so that's a useful spell. He's at 8 right now. He grabs the land with Wrenn 6. Plays it, shocks himself to play Breeding Pool, and plays Valky, God of Lies. I've never seen this card before, so luckily I don't have anything in hand that's useful for him. And I guess he's trying to like transform it. I don't know, do some. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I've never seen this deck before. I've maybe seen this card played once. But let's see what he does next. Okay, he goes Leyline Binding on the Kabu, which is slightly annoying. But I'm still very far ahead. Obviously, he's only at 5 life. And he's going to have to chump here. So I could, of course, just bolt him, bolt the Valky, and then attack with Nikado and bring him to 2. But that doesn't really get me anywhere because then I have to waste a removal spell. So I just attack through and then just hold up mana. In case he plays another threat or something. Okay, he plays Omnath here. So now I'm very confused what my opponent is on, but it's a very annoying card. I'm hoping to draw into something like Binding. Instead, I draw a Scion. So I attack into Omnath. He knows I have a Bolt in hand, but he has to chomp, and I kill Omnath. I should have obviously played the Plains like last turn. I don't know why I didn't, but I don't have 5 colors, so I can't cast Scion. Okay, he goes Omnath again, and then just starts generating all the value with Omnath. So there's not like a whole lot I can do here. Obviously, it was a mull of 4, so I have to try to draw into some action. I draw a land. This does allow me to cast Scion, so I cast my Scion. So let's see what he does here. Okay, yeah, Omnath gains more life. Wrenn 6 Binding on my Scion. At this point, things aren't looking so good. Cast a second Fable. And now he's really, there's not a whole lot I can do. He's just going to keep gaining life every turn. And he's attacking, so I go to 8. I do take a draw step here to see if I get anything good, get another land. So that's the end of game 1. Okay, moving on to game 2. So in terms of sideboarding, I wasn't entirely sure what my opponent was on. It's not a deck I'd seen before. So I just didn't sideboard anything at all. Again, it's these kind of like mid-rangey lists with like Omnath and like Wrenn 6. Like the stock list is pretty balanced. There's not really a whole lot of stuff I would bring in. So I didn't sideboard anything. I just kept it the same. Let's see. Okay, so this is a pretty good hand because, again, I've got a 1-drop with Nikado into a 2-drop with Kavu. So right now I'm thinking I'm going to go Temple Garden into Nikado. Obviously, you could try to get Domain and then do a Triome into Steam Vents on turn 2 to cast Scion, but that's not as much pressure as Nikado and Kavu, so that's not a play I usually make. So I do keep, and then, again, I just start off Flooded Strand into Nikado. Or sorry, Temple Garden is the Wild Nikado. Okay, my opponent goes Sacred Foundry, bolts Nikado, that's fine. Okay, at this point, I go Kavu. Again, he's my best 2-drop. He's my biggest threat. Obviously, I could have dashed Ragavan. It's not that helpful in that situation, though. Right here, I exile a card. I don't loot anything away because actually all my cards are decent. I could have, in theory, looted away maybe like Scion because it's not really castable at this point anyway. But I decided not to do that. Instead, I'm just going to play Nikado and then hold up a Stubby D. So I think my opponent kept a 1-lander or something because he didn't really, again, he missed 2 land drops, so I don't really know what he's doing. But at this point, since he missed 2 land drops, I'm just going to hold up Remand until he tries to do something because I have Nikado doing 3 damage every turn. Obviously, it's not a ton of damage. With 1 threat, I could try to play like more threats, apply more pressure, but I'm just going to wait until he does something and he tries to deal with Nikado. And then I can either stubby D it or Remand it. But I'm going to just keep beating him down with that. And so he does go Solitude, and I do Remand the Solitude. So he takes 3 from that down to 12. So he goes Solitude again, kills me, kills my Nikado, it's fine. I get a Triumph so I can get Domain, so I can cast Scion now. And I still have a stubby D up, so again, I'm just applying pressure, and I'm so far ahead that I guess I don't know what my opponent had in hand, but he just couldn't deal with it, so that was game 2. Sorry, it's my first time recording a screen thing. This is actually my second time recording it because I did it before, but didn't have the right window shown. Okay, moving on to game 3. This time I'm on the draw. See if I can get my hand. There's my hand. So this is a decent hand. It's got 1 threat. It's got some interaction. 4 spells isn't bad, so I keep this hand. He goes Windswept Heath turn 1. I figure he's probably holding up a removal spell here, so I just go Nikado with the idea I can dash Ragavan on turn 2. So he shocks into Steam Vents, bolts my Nikado, which is fine. Okay, now I have Stubby D, so I actually don't do anything here. And the reason I don't do anything is if I dash Ragavan there, let's see what he had up. Okay, he only had Plains, Swamps, and Forests, so his only out would have been Solitude, but I'm just assuming he has a Solitude because he's had it other games. If he Solitudes my Ragavan, then I'm out of threats, and that's just not really all that helpful. Because obviously I have a lot of interaction, but I spent 2 mana to cast Ragavan. He casts, he kills it, and now I'm out of threats, and I can't even slow him down. So instead, I just pass here. And the idea is that I have Stubby D up, and I also have Leyline Binding up, depending on if he plays anything, any threats I care about. He doesn't do anything, so I just fetch a Triumph, gives me Domain. Okay, now I draw a Kavu. That's a very good draw. So I play my Kavu. Now I have Stubby D up. So now I'm starting to apply more pressure. He tries to bind my Kavu. Stubby D it. What does he do here? Oh, he Prismatic Endings my Kavu. It's fine. Okay, so second Tribal Flame. So at this point, I figure he's used up a lot of his removal. I mean, he's got 3 removal spells in the graveyard. Obviously, he could have another Bolt or something, but I'm going to just keep applying pressure. And I hit him with Ragavan. He doesn't have any interaction. Okay, so I flip a Solitude. So now I'm thinking, obviously, I've got a lot of burn spells in hand. So my thought process is I could, of course, Tribal Flames him, but basically the way I lose is looking at what mana he has. I figured he probably had Omnath in hand. So if he Omnaths, what I'm going to do is bind the Omnath in response to the draw trigger so that he might still gain 4 life, but he won't be able to gain like a ton of life doing that. He won't be able to do like as much crazy stuff. So that was basically my plan of why I held this up instead of just going Tribal Flames. So let's see. Okay, so he just passes and he doesn't play anything. So that tells me that maybe he's got Solitude in hand or something. But I just bolt him here because he goes to 10. If I draw another red source, then I have lethal. So I just bolt him. Okay, I draw a Scion. I just Tribal Flames it. So at this point, obviously, I could have played Scion. I could have dashed Ragavan. I'm thinking he has a Solitude. I don't want to dash Ragavan into Solitude, obviously. And if he does have a Solitude, then he will be able to start gaining life next turn. So I want to keep this Leyline Binding open because if I Tribal Flames now, take him to 5, even if he hard casts Solitude and tries to attack with it next turn, then I'll just Leyline Binding it. He won't gain any life, and then I'll kill him with the second Tribal Flames. So That's why I took that line. He passed the turn. He casts a card I've never seen before, Restoration Angel. He goes to 4, and then he doesn't do anything. Just doesn't do anything, and then I just Tribal Flames him, and then that's the end of that. So game 1, again, a kind of weird matchup. Sorry, match 1, but let's move on to round 2. I win the die roll again. It's the secret to success. Okay. Okay, so this is a good hand. Only 1 threat, but it's pretty good. You know, it's Kabu, my best threat. So, you know, the plan right now is I will just go. I even have Temple Garden, which is good, so I can go Wooden Foothills, hold up Bolt, or potentially a fetch into Xander's Lounge if they don't do anything on turn 1. And then I go Temple Garden turn 2 to get 5 colors and play Kabu, so that's pretty good. Okay, so I see Bauble. Thinking Murktide here. He goes Polluted Delta and a Watery Grave, which makes me think that he thoughts he uses me. So right now I'm thinking he's on some Death Shadow build because he's got Thoughts, he's got the blue-black. So he does take the Kabu, which is annoying because it's my only threat. So I just get Xander's Lounge. I draw this WD. Obviously, I could have. So I could have shocked there, and then held up Stubby D and Binding, but I couldn't really think of a threat that I wanted to bind on turn 2. I mean, I guess he could have dashed a Ragavan or something, but his list seemed to be more like blue-black than it was red-black. So, you know, maybe it was better to shock here so I can just hold up both. Oh, sorry, never mind. I have Bolt too, so that's why I did that. Yeah. So even if he dashes a Ragavan to something crazy, I can just bolt it. So that's why I just preserve my life total. I didn't have anything else to do. So that's why I just put that tap. Okay, so he shocks himself again. Again, I'm thinking he's on Death Shadow. Now he's on a 10 life. He doesn't do anything, though. So it's fine with me. I'm just going to dash Ragavan. Believe he responds with a removal spell. Obviously, if I WD there, he could just pay the tax. So not much use in doing that. But I just want to keep pressure on. He's already at 10 life, and I haven't really done anything, so I'm just kind of waiting for him to cast a Death Shadow, and I'll just bind it and then continue on. Okay, so he goes Expressive Iteration here. I could let this resolve, and you know, but Expressive Iteration is a strong card. He's gonna be able to dig to whatever he's looking for, and I don't have a lot going on in my hand. So I decided to just counter this as a tempo play. I figure maybe there's a chance he doesn't have his 3rd land because he didn't play it yet. So I just counter this. So he does have the 3rd land. He doesn't cast anything though. I draw another Ragavan, which is good, and I just dash the Ragavan. He puts up a Swamp, so probably another Fatal Push. Yep, another Fatal Push. Again, I'm just kind of running threats at him. He hasn't really done anything yet, but I want to just keep pressure on, like, you know. So, and his life total is already under a lot of pressure. So he fetches some basics, doesn't do anything. Again, I don't know what he's digging for, but I draw a Scion, which is very good. So I just play my Scion. So Scion is a really good, let me see what he's about to do here. Scion's a really good threat against these sort of decks. So obviously he's running Fatal Push. I haven't seen it yet, but I figure he's running Drown the Lock, and neither of those can kill a Scion. So generally in their main deck of these type of like Death Shadow kind of builds is they don't have a way to kill it unless you have like a ton of cards in your graveyard. So Scion's a very strong threat. Okay, he goes Gurmag Angler, and at this point I have no idea what this deck is. Maybe he's running Gurmag Angler as like another secondary threat to Death Shadow. But I don't know. But okay, he goes Angler. This doesn't have flying, so I don't really care about it that much. Obviously, I could bind it here, but there's not really a reason. Oh, sorry, I do bind it here. And he WDs it. I think I binded it there just because I had the extra binding, and I figured I don't want him to start doing damage to me. You could argue I should have just waited to bind it. I didn't know he was playing WD, so now I do. But I probably could have just let it be, but I was like, I was just trying to apply so much pressure that I just went for it. Okay, I attack him with the Scion, so now he's basically got 1 turn left. I do play the Nikado and I keep Bolt up. I can't keep binding up, but that's fine. Again, my life total is so high, I don't really care what this Skurmag Angler does. And then at this point, he just concedes because it's too much pressure. So we'll go on to game 2. Okay, I'm still recording. Good. Game 2 on the draw. So how do I sideboard? I take out 1 Dramokas and the remands, and I bring in a Rest in Peace and a Unlicensed Hearse, and then I think I bring in 1 Veil of Summer because he had Thoughtseize. But that's what I do. So not crazy. I could have, again, I'm not entirely sure the build he's on, but just because he had some discard spells, I just thought 1 Veil of Summer could be useful. Okay, this hand's fine. 1 threat, some interaction. It's not amazing, but it's keepable. I draw the Scion, which is pretty good. Okay, so I could obviously just play Ragman here, but I figure he's holding up a Fatal Push or a Bolt, so I don't want to just throw Ragman into getting bolted. So I decided to just pass. He shocks himself and goes Thought Scour, which I was a little confused about. I'm not sure what he's looking for, but he does reveal in the Braid, which tells me he probably brought that in for Scion. So it's just something good to know. Okay, I just fetch a Triome. Then I get Domain. And then we'll see what I do here. Okay, I just cast Scion turn 2. He dresses down the Scion. I'm not sure if you didn't know that if Scion doesn't die to dress down, or maybe he's just trying to cantrip. I'm not really sure. It's kind of, but he does it. Again, Scion's like probably my strongest threat in this matchup because it doesn't die to Fatal Push or to Drown the Lock. So it goes Gurmag Angler again, which is, we're kind of in a repeat of last game where I don't really care because it's not a flyer. So I think at this point I just attack, and then I will play another land, play a Kavu, and then hold up WD. Because now we're getting to the point where I'm applying a lot of pressure. I'm pretty far ahead. So let's see what he does. I've got WD up to protect the Kavu if he tries to Fatal Push it or something. He tries to drown it, and I do WD that. But he has his own WD. So that's fine. I wanted to get the WDs out of his hand. He ends up attacking me for 5. Okay, so now he's got 1 untapped source. I just try to dash the Ragman in. Obviously, he could have Fatal Push again, but I just want to apply pressure and put him at Fatal next turn. So, yeah, dash and Ragavan. I think I play another land. Obviously, I could play... Let's see if I think I play Brawler here. Yeah, I play Brawler and I hold up Binding. So one thing that did happen, sorry, in that interaction, is I did swipe a Mishra's Bauble off the top of his library, so I did cast that to look at his library and saw Street Wraith. Okay, right here's interesting. So he goes to cycle to pay 2 life. So obviously I have Fatal with Scion if he can't kill it. So my guess is what he was cycling for was an Abrade, because I know he's got it in the deck. So if he can Abrade the Scion, then he potentially chump with Gurmag Angler. I don't know. He's trying to find a way out of it. There's not really, maybe as a Fatal Push, some more removal for Brawler, because he knows I have Monkey in hand. So I had the option of, right here, I could have bolted him, but I figured if he was going to 2, he probably had something like Drown the Lock in his hand, or a WD, or some kind of interaction, some kind of permission. So I just decided to wait. I'm so far ahead. I'm pretty far ahead in this game. I don't think he has a way to get out of it, so I'll just wait to see what he does here. So he cycles Street Wraith, and then he goes to attack. So at this point, there's no way I'm going to let the Gurmag Angler go unblocked. So I blocked him with my Brawler, and okay, he casts Temur Battle Rage. So in response to Temur Battle Rage, I do bolt him, but that wasn't necessarily the best play. Now his Battle Rage isn't lethal as of now. What I have on board, because he make this a 10-5 double striker. I take 7, I go to 1. So the smarter play. This is only in when I'm watching this replay. I didn't think of it in real time. If he has WD in hand, then I'm gonna go to 1. If he has Drown Lock in hand, I'm also going to go to 1 by doing this. However, if I cast Binding on this Skermag Angler, then the only card in his hand that will save him is Stubby D. So the Drown Lock won't work because I only have 5 cards in my graveyard and Binding 6 mana cost. So the smarter play here would have been to cast Binding in response, bind the Angler, and then I think there's pretty much no way I could have lost. Maybe if he had 1 more land and a Bolt in hand. Or sorry, maybe, yeah, I guess if he had some kind of, if he had Stubby D, and then he also had 1 more red source and a Bolt in hand, I guess I could have lost with that line of thought, but it ended up like, either way, if he had Stubby D, he obviously would have countered the Bolt, so that's just like a small play. It ended up not mattering, he didn't have anything, but just something I noticed on the replay of like a better way to play that one. Okay. Moving on to round 3. Okay, win the dice roll again. I'm just on fire. Okay, this is a decent hand. I can get Domain on turn 2. I'd rather have, obviously, 2 fetches so I can play my turn 1 threat, but this is fine. This is definitely a hand I will keep. I just go play my Triome, really my only turn 1 play. That makes sense. Hey, another Polluted Delta. At this point, I just jam Kavu. I don't know what my opponent's on, but even if he had something like Spell Pierce, it doesn't matter, so. Okay, I see a Steam Vents. I'm thinking maybe Murktide. Okay, and I see a Hall of Storm Giant. So at this point, I'm a little confused. I don't know of lists that run Hall for Murktide, so my thought is maybe he's on some kind of control list. Yeah, when I see Hall, I just think control. So at this point, I'm going to play him like he's a control deck. So it looks like he's holding out Counterspell here. So I'm just going to attack. I do loot here. I loot my second Binding away because the Bindings aren't that useful in a control matchup. And I do get my 3rd land there, which is nice. Okay, so I jam the Kavu here. My thought is he's probably going to counter it, but that's okay because I'll just get my Nacatl in play. Obviously, I could play the Nacatl first, but he'll probably just hold up Counterspell and still Counterspell the Kavu. Same thing. What ends up happening though is that I guess he has nothing in hand. I'm not really sure, but he doesn't counter it. So at that point, maybe again I don't know. So I just play the Kavu and he concedes right there. So very fast win. But unfortunately, I don't know exactly what my opponent is on because he didn't play literally any spells. So he concedes, and then we go to game 2. Game 2, I'm on the draw. Okay, so this is a fine starting 7. I've got a turn 1 threat in Nacatl. I've got a turn 2 threat in Brawler. I've got some interaction. Should be good. He goes Steam Vents, Monkey. So at this point, I'm very confused what list he's running at. Now I'm starting to think maybe he's just a Murktide deck, and I just didn't realize it. So anyway, I would have boarded a little differently if it was a Murktide deck. Sorry, speaking of the boarding, because I didn't talk about it. I just brought in my stuff typical for a control matchup. So I bring in 2 Veil Summer, and I bring in 2 Teferi, and then I just take out Bolt. I take out 2 Binding. So things that aren't that useful in control matchup. Obviously now it looks like they're on Murktide, so I would have boarded differently, but that's fine. I do have Nacatl, so that's a good answer to Ragavan. I'm happy to make that trade. Hopefully he doesn't have a removal spell in hand. He does not. He just plays a basic island. So he attacks me. I'm fine with this trade again. I don't want him to get ahead on mana. Okay, now I'm just going to go... Okay, now I do nothing. So, again, my thought is he either on Murktide or he's on some kind of control list. I don't know what he's doing, but he looks like he has Counterspell up. I don't want to play... Obviously, I have multiple threats in hand, so I could play a Brawler into a Counterspell, but I don't really want to do that. I'd rather get a 3rd land down and then be able to hold up SWD, depending on what kind of stuff they're doing. So he goes Expressive Iteration right here, and then I'm pretty sure I counter it. Because it's kind of my same process as the earlier game, where maybe he doesn't have a 3rd land, so I'm just going to set, this is kind of like a Time War, I'm just going to set him back a turn by countering this. And this is a very strong card. Of course, he can dig for whatever he needs, so I'm just going to I'm just going to do this. And now he's basically tapped out, and now I know he can't counter. But he plays an Engineer Explosive on 1, which I don't know why that was. I'm happy to see that. I have no 1-drops in my hand. So at this point, I think I just jam a Scion. Yep. Okay, sorry. I could have obviously played a grabbed a third Shockland, but I was looking at my life total. I was already down to 13, so I figured I'd just play the Triumph and then play a Scion. I don't think there's anything that he's going to play that I'm going to need to bind this turn. So I don't think it's worth it keeping the 1 mana up or taking the 3 damage to keep 1 mana up for binding when he's not really doing anything. So I'm fine with just tapping out. Oh, he goes Iteration again. Okay, so now he exiles Shadow of Doubt, and I'm very confused what deck he's on. I haven't seen this card played in any regular build, so I don't know what he was trying to do, but I see Shadow of Doubt. Again, I already have 3 lands in play, so maybe he was trying to do that play last turn, but again, I already have my lands in play, so I don't need to fetch or anything, so that's fine. So at this point, I just start attacking, and then see what I do here. I just play second Scion. So again, he dresses down. My thought process for this, why I didn't play something like a Brawler, is that maybe he plays Blood Moon. He has a lot of islands here, and if he Blood Moons me with Brawler becomes pretty useless. Whereas these Scions are still 4/4s, even if you Blood Moon me. So at this point, I have so much pressure on the board that I'm just going to play a Scion. I'll hold up Binding. And even if he Blood Moons me, he's still on a 2-turn clock. So he ends up playing Dress Down, probably just a cantrip. I don't know what he has in hand. See what he does. Okay, he goes 3rd Iteration now, and then he concedes. So I don't know what my opponent was on. That was kind of this was the fastest match in the whole prelim. I finished this round in 10 minutes or something. So I don't know what my opponent was on. He didn't really do much in either game. Okay, moving on to round 4. This was, I think we were the only 2 4-0s left, or 3-0s left. So this one was for the undefeated. Again, win the die roll helps a lot. Okay, this is a fine hand. It's only got 1 threat, but it's got some interaction. This is a keepable 7. Okay, he plays. Let me pause this. So he plays basic mountain into DRC. At this point, this is I know he's on some kind of weird build if he's playing basic mountain. So plays Bauble. I'm thinking that it might be some kind of weird mono red mid range list. There's some lists that are like that. So at this point, I'm probably most concerned about Blood Moon. He might be a deck that main decks Blood Moon, and that's just something I need to keep in mind. So I just jam Kabu. I think he's a deck that plays Bolt, but probably he is a deck that has a hard time dealing with a 5/5. So I just jam Kabu. It's pretty easy. Okay, now he goes Shrapnel Blast, which I was not expecting. And then he attacks me for 1. So that's fine. I'll go. I grab a basic forest here. So I thought my life total was maybe going to be under pressure. If you're running cards like Shrapnel Blast, he probably has a lot of burn in hand or in his deck. So I want to be a little more cognizant of the life total. I don't think that was maybe the right play. I think the right play was to obviously I wanted to hold up mana for Stubby D. So I think the right play was just to go Xander's Temple Garden, play the fetch, and then if I need to fetch and shock, I will for Stubby D. And the reason that matters is because I don't have any basic islands in this deck, but you'll see by grabbing forest, I only have 1 blue, and I have 2 actually permission spells in my hand, so I can't double cast them, unfortunately, next turn, unless I draw another fetch land. So that's a small mistake, but you'll see why that matters in a little bit. There's a lot of those things with the mana base. You just got to play very tight. Okay, now he goes Goyf. So now I'm thinking he's maybe more like a Jund kind of mid-rangey deck. Obviously, he's got some graveyard synergies, stuff like that. So at this point, obviously, I don't really have anything to play. Now, like I said, you could have, if I kept that fetch up, I could have fetched a breeding pool or a triome. No, probably a breeding pool, and then I would have had a second blue source here, and I would have been at 14 life. Or sorry, I would have still been the same life total. So I end up binding the Goyf. I just don't want to deal with it, and I want to be able to get him with Brawler, start applying pressure. He doesn't do anything. I think he thinks about blocking. I'm not sure. He's got 3 types in the graveyard. Okay, so he just takes it. Now at this point, again, I think I just play a second Brawler, and then I figure I'll keep up Stubby D. I'm worried about my Brawler. Brawler's not a very good creature in this matchup, only because he plays Bolt. But I'm worried about my life total, so I'm just going to fetch a basic Plains, and I figure I'll keep up WD if he's got a removal spell for either the Brawlers. But I'm in pretty good shape right now, I feel like. He doesn't do anything. Oh, sorry. Okay, so he goes Ren 6 here. Now, obviously, I could WD the Ren in 6, but usually I don't. In most matchups, I don't care about Ren. It doesn't. Again, like I'm more worried about him bolting one of my Brawlers, so I figured I'll let the Ren resolve because I don't want it to stubby that Ren and then he plays a land and then just bolts one of my Brawlers. I'm not in very good shape then. So he does return a land. There's the land, and he plays Tarmogoyf. So obviously I got punished by not, and of course I draw another remand by not playing that stubby D. I still think it was probably the right play. I wasn't certain on the opponent's deck. There's usually not a time where I care that much about Ren 6. Because the other thing is, if I had countered Ren 6, I think he would have gotten Delirium as well, which he did that Ren 6 post combat. I think. Guess I'd have to rewatch it, but I didn't want to give him Delirium. The DRC, again, maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. If I had WD the Ren 6, probably would have played out better. Okay, so I attack here. I'm okay trading the Goyf with a Brawler and then dealing 5. I think that's fine. I still have permission in hand in case he tries to kill my Brawler. So he dashes Ragavan here. So I do have 1 remand. But now if you remember back when I fetched a basic Forest and why that didn't go very well, is I remand the 1 Ragavan. But obviously I draw a card, draw land. But then he can cast Ragavan again out of another blue source. So what I could have done, I could have potentially double remanded the Ragavan. He still had another source of land. He could have had Bolt in hand. Maybe that's the right play. I probably would have double remanded it though if I had another blue source. And then maybe he would just hardcast it or something. I'm not sure. Instead, he deals damage to me, and this is, of course, he flips a Nicodle, which is probably one of the better cards he could flip off me. And then he did have Bolt in hand anyway. So, again, I could have stopped him from flipping a Nicodle, but he still would have bolted my Brawler. So, I don't know that would have made that much of a difference in the game. But now things are looking really bad. I'm very far behind. I need to draw a threat instead of draw a land. I put Gigantha to hand, holding up Stubby D. At this point, it's not going to really do anything. And he just attacks with everything, and then the game's pretty much over here. He gets a binding, tries binding his binding, or binding my binding, so I just Stubby D it because I have nothing else to do. Okay, now I just draw another land, and that's the game. Okay, game 2. Alright, I'm on the play again, which always helps. Okay, so I had a sideboard for this game. So I was thinking this is kind of just like a mid-range Juns deck. In hindsight, I should have looked up this guy's username and I would have seen the deck list that he was on, just on MTG Goldfish because he played with it before. But because basically his deck list was bringing in a lot of burn spells, and then some kind of like the Jund like mid-rangey cards. So I probably would have, if I had looked at what his deck list actually was, at least according to that, roughly, I probably would have brought in, took out the remands. I think that's the right move. He's a very low mana curve deck, so the remands aren't that good. I probably would have brought in Fluster Storms because all the burn spells, and then I would have kept it. I would have brought in second Dromokas, I think. Maybe that's overboarding, but again, he's got a lot of these like 5 damage burn spells and stuff, so I'd rather just have a Dromokas to be able to protect some of my creatures. And I probably would have taken out 2 Brawlers. They're not very good in this matchup when he's running Bolt. And then I did bring in a Rest in Peace and a Unlicensed Hearse. My thought process was, on the play, you only need really 2 of those Graveyard Hate things. But yeah, that's kind of boarding like what I would against maybe a Jund deck. I don't know. Again, I wasn't that familiar with this build, so I just kind of winged it. Okay, I go Breeding Pool turn 1. Okay, pause this. So the reason I go Breeding Pool turn 1, right? I know he's playing Bolt, so no matter what, my Nakatl dies to Bolt. But if you see Dromokas, I need green and white on separate mana. So, and I have Sacred Foundry in hand. So my thought process is I'll just go Breeding Pool turn 1, turn 2 Sacred Foundry, and then turn 3 I can cast Dromokas if I need to or whatever. We're going to Nakatl. I think it goes Shadow Spear. That's kind of interesting play. So I just hit him for 3, play a Kavu, and then pass the turn. He bolts my Nakatl. That's fine. I draw another Kavu. So at this point, I am taking a lot of damage from my lands to do what I'm doing. I do attack him. I exile a card because my hand's pretty good. Okay, sorry. So I actually did punt there. So I punted by having the Overgrown Tune tapped. What I should have done is just put it in play tapped, or maybe done it in Dotha Triumph or something, because I would have saved myself 2 life there, so I'd been at 14, and I couldn't double spell this turn anyway. I didn't have 2 red sources, so I could have just kept that like that, and then I would still have the mana up for either Dromoka's Command or my second Kavu, depending on what he cast. So that was a bit of a punt there, but it didn't really matter. So at this point, I have Fatal on board. See what he tries to do. Okay, Shrapnel Blast one of the Kavus. That's fine. And at this point, I'm just going to dash Ragavan in. I'm going to hit with everything. Maybe I can top deck a Bolt or something like that from his deck. It ends up not mattering. He just concedes the next turn. Again, he's at 3 life, and he knows I've got Dash Ragavan. I got Stubby D. He's not getting out of this one. Okay, game 3. Okay, this hand's fine. I've got a turn 1 threat into a turn 2 threat. I've got some interaction. This is a fine hand. Goes Arid Mesa, DRC. Okay, right here I make actually a huge punt that probably might have cost me the game. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I'll go 1 drop into 2 drop. Go Ragavan into Brawler. The problem with that line is I know he plays Ren 6. I'm on the draw, so I almost never want to play a Ragavan into ping by Ren 6. So unfortunately, I didn't realize that until I'd already fetched the Sacred Foundry, and then I was screwed because the right play would have been to hold up my fetch, obviously, until I see what he does. I don't really need to bolt this DRC right now. I just do it because I don't have any other plays, but I should just hold up the fetch and not cracked it until I needed it. And held up Ragman in hand because I don't want him to die to Ren 6. So instead I get punished right away because he plays a Ren 6. So obviously, if I had waited with the fetch like I was supposed to, I could have just Stubby D'd this Ren 6, and then he would have lost a turn. He would have had DRC in hand still, or on the board still, but still in a 1/1. So instead I bolt the DRC, and then I dash Ragavan in. I take him to 14. I reveal a Clothis, so again, I don't know what exactly my opponent was on, but some kind of mid-rangey thing. Anyway, so he reveals Clothis. At this point, I don't have any plays with the treasure token. I can hold up a stubby D. Okay, turn 3, he dashes Ragavan, so this is pretty bad for me. I didn't really have any other options. I guess it could have not dashed Ragavan, but he probably has Bolt in hand anyway. So he dashes Ragavan. Fortunately, hits something that he can't cast, and then he plays a DRC. Okay, so now I just play Brawler, and my idea is I'm going to hold up Stubby D. But I run into issue with how I tap here. So in an ideal world, I want to be able to hold up 2 Stubby Ds and or a Stubby D and a Bolt. But if you look at how I tap here, I actually can't do that. So what the right move would have been was to take a Windswept Heath, either shock it in, or either get an Overgrown Tomb and shock it in if I want Domain, or just get maybe a basic Plains, a basic Forest. The reason I want to do that is because I want to keep up a blue mana. So I could have done basic Forest, or I could have done Overgrown Tomb, shocked to get all 5 colors. Oh, sorry, I have Overgrown Tomb in hand, so never mind. So I should have just grabbed a basic Forest, tap basic Forest, Sacred Foundry, cast the Brawler, 4/3. I would have had blue mana up and treasure token. I don't do that, so I've got the breeding pool already in play. I don't play any white-blue lands, so I have no way to get another blue source with this, an untapped blue source. So he plays Experimental Synthesizer, and at this point, again, I don't really know what he's doing, but you know, I'm not that familiar with this. I just know it's in some of these kind of like grinding station sort of type decks. So at this point, I just counter Experimental Synthesizer. I don't have much else to do. I don't want this to get in play and him to start being able to make creature tokens, start being able to cast extra spells on top of his library. So I just study that. He does play a Ragavan. Bobbles me. Okay, I draw Plains, which is not a great draw. So here I probably make another misplay. So I decided to Bolt Ragavan. My thought process is if I attack, I don't want them to be able to double block me and trade. So the problem is I didn't do the math very well on what's in the graveyard. So if you look closely, he's already got artifact and creature in the graveyard. He's got a fetch he can crack to get a land in the graveyard. And then if he casts an instant, then he'll have Delirium. So he could then potentially trade the DRC with me. So the right move was probably maybe Bolt the DRC, hold up Stubby D, and see what he does. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have attacked. It's hard to say. The problem is Ren's already at 6. Okay, so that's the other issue I didn't really pay enough attention to. So right here, Ren is at 6. Normally I ignore Ren. The problem with ignoring Ren is I know this deck runs Bolt, and I don't know that I can kill him in 2 turns before he can ultimate with Ren, and then he can just start bolting me. So there are probably different ways to play this. I don't know. I was in a tough position, so I end up misplaying because I bolt the Ragavan thinking I don't want him to scoop anything off the top of my deck, and then I attack. The problem is, of course, he can get Delirium now, so now he can trade. And he does that. Gets Delirium. Tries to bolt my Stubby D. I block it so I can at least trade with the DRC. Again, maybe the better move, usually I just attack face. Maybe the better move there would have been to just attack Ren, so that he can't ultimate Ren next turn. I think that would have been a better line. So right now, everything is kind of down the board. He does play an Urza Saga, which will be a problem down the line, but I draw another Brawler. Again, Brawler is like the worst card in this matchup. Sorry, not the worst card, but it's our worst creature in this matchup because it dies to Bolt. Obviously, our 1-drops die to Bolt too, but I'd much rather have a Kavu or a Scion. Unfortunately, I just kept drawing Brawlers this game. So I do go to Dash Monkey. if he's got Bolt in hand, obviously you just Bolt Monkey, but like I need to do something. I need to apply some pressure. And I do try to dash the Monkey at Ren 6 because I recognize that the ultimate is going to be a problem. Unfortunately, he has Bolt. So then I just play a Brawler. And then now I'm in trouble because now he can ultimate Ren and he can just Bolt me. And he ended up bolting my creature. So I think he punted here. I don't know what he was doing, but if you count how much mana he had, he could have ultimated Ren, and then he already had a bolt in the graveyard, so he could have just cast 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. I think he would have won. I had nothing in hand, so I'm not sure if he didn't see that line or if he was just slow rolling it or what, but he could have killed me in this turn. I draw Leyline Binding. So I cast Leyline Binding because I'm thinking that this emblem counts as a permanent, so I can potentially exile it. This is not, though. The emblems don't count as permanent, so instead, I don't realize that until obviously I cast it. Instead, I grab Ren 6. The smarter move would have been to just wait. If I'd known that, I would just wait until he grabs whatever artifact he grabs, and I could exile one of the Ursa Saga's tokens when he tries to attack, or a Shadow Spear, or whatever he tries to do. Instead, I have to bind Ren because there's not really any other options here. I do grab Gigantha at this point. Things aren't looking good. Again, he's got the ultimate with Ren, which is kind of a huge problem. At this point, he attacks with a Construct. And again, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he didn't see the line or what, but all these have retrace, so he can just keep casting a bolt. So he has enough mana to kill me. He finally does. So, yeah, it's unfortunate loss. Like again, I would say I probably had 2 punts in that game. The big one was that first one with Ren 6, and then the second one was kind of how I did that trade with the DRC, and letting it get Delirium and letting Ren get to Ultimate. So it is what it is. I think the deck overall is very strong. Obviously, I went 3-1, and even though my matchups were a little weird, and I won the dice roll every game, so that also helps. But like, what I found with this deck, I've played with it a lot, is that most of the time when I lose, it's my fault. I think the mana base is solid. I think it's just there's little things that you'll learn with playing domain mana base of fetching the right things at the right times and making sure you have the right colors. And a lot of it varies game by game because it depends on what's in your hand, what you're trying to cast, things like that. But you will absolutely lose some games when you're starting out this deck by fetching the wrong land, by playing the wrong. It's tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's definitely doable. And so yeah, overall the deck is really strong. And like I said, if you want to see more videos, I'll put links in the description for the guy who brewed this deck. He's got some gameplay videos. He plays a lot better than I do.